Hello and welcome to the Manifest to Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 75. This is about living your best life today, walking back to happiness. I have an amazing guest today. He is an author, a speaker, a habit change coach. How cool is that? Nigel Jones, welcome to my show.
Hi, Goldyn. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you here. One of the things, so Nigel and I've shared many times about 1 Year No Beer. It's a Facebook group that we're both a part of, and it's all about gaining control of your relationship with alcohol. And Nigel just wrote this book called Walking Back to Happiness, and I loved the cover. The cover is what really got me and made me feel like, okay, I need to read this book. Also, the name, like Walking Back to Happiness. How cool is that? And I don't think many of us, if you're in a relationship with alcohol, especially a daily one, I don't think we realize what a detriment this substance is to our lives. And it wasn't until I started to create a little space from it, not being completely sober, but taking long stretches of time and not having alcohol in my life, has provided me with the clarity to actually create a different relationship with it. So Nigel, share with us, what was your, like, first of all, where did you come from and what was your wake up call with all of this?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if we go back to December 2020, which seems like a lifetime ago now, because it really is a lifetime ago to me.
Yeah.
It's around about 620 odd days ago. So I'm coming up to, I think, 21 months alcohol free. Um, I'm in my mid 50s, and I'd been drinking alcohol really since I was turned 17, 18. And so it was a good sort of 35 years of drinking.
Isn't that crazy? I feel like we've all done that and we don't even really think about it, but we're like, wow, we've spent half of our lives drinking alcohol, right?
Yeah. It really was towards the end becoming just too much for my body. I think when you're younger, you can get away with such a lot.
True.
You still have to put up with horrible hangovers, but you can still do it, and you can go out
Yes.
late and you can get up early. But at 54, that was how old I was when I stopped. Even a couple of glasses of wine would give me a headache the next day,
Mhm.
or would make me want to say, "Oh God, I just can't get up today." So it was, I was at a point, I suppose, in my life where my children had grown up. My youngest son had left for university, and so it was me and my wife in the house by ourselves again, without any children. And I run my own successful companies, but I was overweight. I was not sleeping. I was anxious. I was short tempered. I had all the things
Mhm.
that were just wrong with my life. There was it was I had sort of several panic attacks. I found myself at A&E at the hospital, just wondering what the hell was wrong with me, thinking I was going to sort of die, a couple of times. And the more I sort of spoke to people about it, I wasn't the only one this was happening to. There's quite a lot of people, and I just realised I'd known for a long time, but I really, really decided that I knew that the real reason, the one thing that was causing all this, was
Mm.
my relationship with drink and alcohol. It wasn't as if I was drinking a massive, massive amount. I wouldn't define myself as an alcoholic, or whatever that means. In
Right.
the book, I sort of describe that quite well. I'll go into detail on it, but I say in the book that I wasn't pouring Frascati on my Frosties, or Malibu
Right.
on my muesli, or whiskey on my Weetabix, or whatever it is. But I was drinking probably a bottle of wine a day, and it normally was at 6 o'clock after
Mhm.
a hard day in the office. Crack open a glass of white wine, and then before you know it, it's 10 o'clock, and you've done 3 glasses of wine, and on the weekend I'd probably drink a bit more, and it was like a vicious cycle of like some sort of horrible hamster wheel that I was on. You know,
Yep, I've been
and
there. I've lived that. I've totally
which
lived that.
everybody called success. It
Yes.
was like, oh wow, you're drinking champagne and you've got a successful business, but
Yeah.
I felt like crap.
Yes.
I was lying in bed thinking, God, can I ever get off this wheel?
Yes.
And I did that for years, thinking that I
Mhm.
could never get off it.
Yeah.
But something changed in December 2020. Yeah, and I've never looked back.
Really? And what was that big change? Like you suddenly just decided enough is enough?
Yeah, I probably in the 35 years of partying, um, tried many times to go beyond a day to say, oh, like today I'm going to
Yes.
stop drinking, and I probably made it today too. Maybe once a month, or maybe a bit less than that, once every 2 months, and then
Yep.
some. And then I think I had a handful of days whereby I think in 35 years I'd done one 6 day stint. That was the longest I'd gone. I mean, I'm
Yep.
not proud of this at all. And I'd done a couple of 5 day ones. But really, if I ever got to 3 days, I started to feel so healthy that
Yes.
I thought I'd reward myself with a drink. And so then I just go back into the cycle. And it got to like sort of, my mid 50s when I just couldn't do it anymore. And I think what it was, I know what it was. So I went down to Cardiff, which is about a sort of 200-mile drive from where we live in Kent in England. And I went to Wales to pick my son up, who was at university finishing his first term. And we had this wonderful journey back, which lasted about 4 or 5 hours, where it was just me and him in the
Mm.
car. And he was just telling me all about the wonderful things he was learning and all these new connections he was making and this whole life which was in front of him. And he doesn't drink and he's very fit and healthy. And I was just sort of sitting there thinking, my God, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could sort of have that back, that sort of get my mojo back, that and why the hell should I just believe that it's gone? I want this back, and I knew I could get it. And I'd known for years that drinking was causing this problem, and I just
Mhm.
thought, God, I'm going to do it for myself and my kids and my son and my wife. And I just thought, well, I'm gonna really really do it this time. And the next day, I just woke up and I did it. I just went on the journey.
Amazing. So did you already know about 1 Year No Beer?
No, I'd been hit by a number of email or direct mail ads, so I was sort
Oh,
of like, I knew of it, and I was thinking, oh, should I do that? And it
yeah.
was always like, oh no, I'm gonna fail. There's no way I could do it. I'll be back on the hamster wheel within 3 days
And you
because I was
nailed
doing it
like,
wrong.
you did it. You did it, and it's so interesting because there's so many people on the 1 Year No Beer page, and myself included, who we do
Yeah,
it for a little while, and then we kinda slide back, and I've one of my processes with alcohol is watching what I do, and watching how I process it, and watching what I believe about it, right? So
yeah,
now when I do drink, it's more of a conscious decision, and it's more about just me being in the moment and being okay with it and not being, having a bunch of like resistance. Like for me, it feels like totally giving it up feels like too much for me right now. So there's a process that people go through. But
yeah,
and my daughter's the same way as you because she's given it up for 2 years, like flipped a switch.
yeah,
And I have to commend you for that because it's really truly amazing. And also say the journey that you've been through,
yeah.
there's so many on it. So many on it with the daily drinking. I remember when I came to 1 Year No Beer, my friend told me she had been 3 months without alcohol, and I was like, "How did you do it?" I was like, "I wanna know how to do that," because it was like, how do you do that? I don't know how to do it. Every day it calls my name and I answer yes. And
Yeah.
now I know how to do that. So it's so cool that you flipped the switch. But why do you think that all of a sudden it was like, I'm done?
Yeah, so the secret, which I explain in my book, Walking Back to Happiness, which I found, is actually pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
and it was always there. I just didn't know where to look for it, and I remember so I woke up on this the next morning, having taken my son back, brought him back home from university, and I got hit by a direct message from 1 Year No Beer, so I
I love
decided to
that.
press it. And
Yep.
so I signed up, but get this right, I didn't sign up for the 28 days. I signed up for 5 days because I thought, well, I know I can do that.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
this was part of my whole philosophy. It's small steps, and
Yes.
I'll explain it as I go on. But I think if you take each day as it comes, it's easier to get to the big goal. And so I'm really all about journey goals, and I only have three. I basically do them every day. And what the first journey goal is to get up before 5:30,
Love it.
put on my walking shoes and go for a 9 kilometer walk.
I
Um,
love that.
you don't have to do 9 km, but for me, 9 km was what I decided that was the distance that
And that
would make a
takes you
difference.
how long? How long does that take you?
2 hours. So I'm back by 7:30, quarter to eight. And so what I've effectively done is I've traded the time, which is 9:30 to 11:30 in the evening, which I was normally drinking wine, watching Netflix,
Yes.
and I've switched that out for a 5 till 7 9 kilometer walk.
Love it.
And I tell you, right, that's made the difference. So that was goal one: get up early, and you get up early once you stop drinking. You just wake up early
You
because you're
do.
just full of life and energy. So
So true.
I was waking up anyway, so I had to do something, and so that's what I did. So that's goal one. Goal two was basically not to drink today,
Right.
and goal three was to meditate for at least 15 minutes, and I do that when I'm on the walks. So you don't
Awesome.
have to be sitting in a sort of lotus position. I meditate basically walking down the country lanes, or listening to the birds, or the rain on my bald head. so, so but that's the best form of meditation for me. That works for me because I can just completely clear my mind, and get in between the space between the thoughts, basically. So
Wow.
really, um, the secret, or the way I got into this, was to actually realize that what had been holding me back in the 35 years that I tried to stop drinking before was I actually believed that I couldn't do it.
Right.
And there was almost like a fear that of failure, that I
Yep.
wouldn't be able to do it. But I realized that that was just a belief,
Hmm.
and all beliefs are learned. So
Yes.
and all beliefs can be unlearned.
True.
So really, what I did was look at my belief system, and I realized that the new Nigel's new identity was not fat Nigel. It was not boozy Nigel. It was not Nigel who's going to get out of it and sort of not be in the now and not be present. And he was not. I didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
And so I looked at what values would a person have, what beliefs would a person have, who wanted to be healthy, who
True.
wanted to build connections with his wife and his kids and his friends, who wanted to sleep 7 hours a night, who
Yes.
wanted just to enjoy his life. And those values basically became the new me. And Tony Robbins says, you change your story, you change your life. And
Yep.
that's what I did. I literally
Yep.
changed my story. But I believed it. I really believed that I was now a healthy person. And healthy people don't, well, I thought, and was my belief, in my belief system, healthy people don't drink alcohol.
Yes.
And that
No,
was
and
it.
you're
I know it
completely
sounds
right.
crazy, and some people might go, "Oh wow, I can still drink and be healthy." Well, yeah,
Yes.
maybe you can, but for me, that
Yep.
was the belief I went for.
That was the belief. And I love that. And everything that you're saying right now resonates so much with me. And it's so much of what I teach. Like I have an episode called Change Your Story, Change Your Life. And
Wow.
identity creation, like you had just explained identity creation to a T. It's all about who would I be? What would I do? If this is my goal, then what does that person act like? And what does
Yeah.
that person believe? And what do they do every day? And I totally believe in waking up early. I get up at 4:17. And
Yeah.
it was the same thing. It was like, what am I doing at night that's really promoting the life I say I want? And it was
Yeah.
the exact opposite of what I wanted, right?
Well, what this all boiled down to for me was, I read this sort of uh, introduction to Buddhism, right. And
Mm,
I sat. It was a book, like I think it was called Buddhism for Dummies or something like that. And
love it.
but you could get it all in like one read, and you didn't have to read loads and loads of texts and stuff.
Right.
And there was just some fantastic stuff in there. And one of the things in there was the power of intentions. And it was basically, it said that everything you do, every act that you do, comes from your intention to do it.
Yes.
So if I intended to drink, I would drink.
Yep.
And that act, if you did it repeatedly, would become a habit.
Yep.
And that habit, if it goes on, would become your character.
Yes.
And then that effectively would become your destiny. So
Yes.
so if I changed my intention and to I don't want to drink, I'm not going to drink,
Hmm.
then my act would be to do something else. Like, I've learned to play the piano, I play better guitar, I've written a book, I'm studying my family history, there's loads and loads of
I
different
love it.
things I'm now doing because I didn't intend to drink, I intended to do something else. And
Right.
then that act became the new habit, and that habit became my new character, my new destiny. And it's
I love
it's
it.
really simple,
Yes.
but and it's you just got to flick the switch and
Yeah.
say, this is the new me, and this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And
And I think
once you
too
get
many
into that,
people,
it goes.
yes, and I think too many people live in the indecision. They live in the
Yeah,
wishing and the hoping, but they don't do. And I always say you've got to activate energy. You've got to put something towards it. A
yeah,
strong intention, a strong decision. This is who I am now. I don't do that anymore is such a valuable way to really close the energy field to it. I mean,
the,
anytime that I've done long stretches, it's like, oh, I just don't do that anymore. And I've done that with food and different things that are like, a
yeah,
bad habit. It's like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I don't watch that anymore. It's like
yeah,
I don't allow that stuff into my field, because our field is what we create from, and everything you let into your field, you're subject to be influenced by. They call it under the influence. Like, what are we under the
yeah,
influence of, right? Like you're under the influence of health and getting up early, and now you've got this
yeah.
creativity and excitement. I love that your son inspired you to this too. That's so amazing. Like we look at youth and we think, oh, my ship has sailed. And it's like, no, we all
No,
have the same life force, right?
I
And we
read I
all
read
have
this
the
book.
same abilities.
I read this book the other day, and this guy was saying, like, if you look at your adult life as starting at age 20, and let's say, we live to 90, then you've got 70 years of your adult life. So
Yeah,
at 35 years in, which is 55, which is what I am, which I'm 1 year older, I'm only
yep,
50% into my adult life. So
that's great.
why the hell should I like say no, game over? 50%. I only just started, and if you're 65, you got 35% left. At
Yes,
75, you got 23% left. I mean, you got to keep going. I mean, and
right.
once you get this into your mind, and that's your intention, it really, really flows. There's this great American philosopher called Henry Thoreau,
Yep.
and one of his writings really, really influenced me. And it was basically a footstep in on the earth doesn't a single footstep on the earth does not make a path.
Hmm.
And just like a single thought in the mind does not create a new way of thinking. But
True.
but many footsteps on the earth create that path, and if you think the same thoughts over and over again regularly on a daily basis, then that creates the new way of thinking. And really, he was writing that in 1850, but that's really what neuroscience is.
Yes. Yep.
It's the latest thinking today, and that changed. That really, really changed me. Just that one saying.
Yeah, because if you think differently, you're going to do differently, right? So by
Yeah,
being under this programming or under this substance all the time, and what I found too with alcohol is just the low vibrational tendency it has, like waking up every day, and like you said, you had all this anxiety and panic
yeah,
attacks, and a lot of times people don't correlate it with alcohol. I mean, we see it in our page 1 year no beer, but if you've never been, like, it was funny, I was talking to a neighbor recently, and he said, geez, I couldn't sleep last night. And he was talking about how, and he's training for a triathlon. I can't believe, and he's a daily drinker. And I
Right?
said, well, it's probably the alcohol. And we started talking about what alcohol does in your body and how your liver has to metabolize it. So because he's like, oh, well, maybe that's why I can't lose weight. Here he is training for a triathlon. And he's like, yeah, that must be why I'm carrying some weight around. And I'm like, this does not occur to people. This is not information that people are privy to. So for us to just plant these little seeds and go, you know what, if you gave that up for a little while,
Yeah.
your racing might be more amazing. But most people think that doing this thing every day serves them. And that's the social programming that we
Yeah.
are, shattering by showing people that there is another way. And that if they really do want to walk back to happiness, it's about taking that power and control back in their lives.
Yeah, look, Goldyn, I completely agree with what you're saying there. I mean, we are society is soaked in alcohol. I mean, it's
Soaked.
everywhere. It's basically, we crack open something when a baby's born. We have a drink when someone gets married. We have a drink when someone dies.
Guys.
We have a drink when we're unhappy. We have a drink when we're happy. It's everywhere, and it's
Yep.
literally whatever the reason, have a drink. And and
It's so
and
true.
and it's hard to get away from that because you're indoctrinated every day. And in the book, there's a chapter called "The Alcohol Drinkers Tribe," and basically everyone becomes a member of this tribe, or
Yes.
most people are trying to push into it. And like
True.
any tribe, it's difficult to leave a tribe
It's true.
because there's pressure to stay. There's pressure
Yes.
to come on, go for a drink. What's wrong with you? And
Yes.
so you've got to learn how to get out of the tribe. And one of the easiest ways to leave a tribe is to join a new one.
I
And
agree.
one beer really is an alcohol-free tribe. And
Yes.
so for me, in day one, I joined a new tribe.
Yes.
And once you're in that tribe, it's a lot easier because you're with 10,000 other people online who are also doing the same.
Yep. Yep. And then what was the hardest part about not drinking for you? What were your struggles like in the early days?
Yeah, the difficult it's I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, literally, it is tough in the first few days because you are actually going completely against the grain.
Yeah.
It's but it's not all the time. It comes like that. They're cravings basically,
Waves.
and
Yeah.
I analyze this as this. There's basically two voices in your head. There's like the ego voice, which is basically saying, "Go on, have a drink. You deserve it. You've done 3 days. God, good on you. Well done, mate." And then there's the other side of you, which is like the new you, is going, "No, no, no, you can't do
Do
that." So
it.
all that's going on is like just massive argument between yourself and your head. And so
Yes.
once you get that and you step outside yourself and you realize, I'd be a clown if I gave in now. I would be
Yeah.
weak. And I'm not weak because my new value system is I'm not weak. And therefore, I just thought cravings are like waves, and we live near the sea here, so I went down to the sea almost every day and just watched the waves crash on the beach because
Love
eventually
it.
they crash, and when they
Yes.
crash they go. And
Yes.
really the maximum you have to put up with is probably 1 to 2 minutes of, oh god, I really want to drink. And
Yep.
that only happens in the first I for me it happened a lot on day one, no problem. Day two, a couple of cravings, and then it sort of builds up because you're heading for the first week of not having any booze.
Yep.
Um, but then all of a sudden they get less and less and less, and they're not as long as they are. So if you can get through the first month of these, which is not hard to do if you really
Mhm.
really want to,
Yes.
um, you can get over it. And it's not willpower that gets you through those. It's
Mm-mm.
understanding what they are. And
Yes.
I read this book. I think it's by Julia Galef called "The Scout Mindset,"
Okay.
and uh, it really really was a major influence and is a major part of the secret. And what Julia says in that book is that we have two types of mindset. We have
Mhm.
a soldier mindset and a scout mindset. So we're all working for the same army. We're all going out to fight for the self in the world. But there's two types of soldier or at work here. There's the soldier who's basically right. I'm going to do it this way. Nigel Jones, the self, is going to win today. We're going to earn some money. We're going to do this or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then there's a scout mentality, and the scout is also a soldier, but he goes out and he looks over the hill and he comes back to the general and he says, I've seen something going on over there and we should be aware of this. It could actually kill us, or
Right.
we could lose the battle if we don't watch out for this. And I just got more. I became more of a scout, and
Hmm.
I looked at alcohol almost like on a seesaw, and I thought, there's this huge ambivalence around it.
Hmm.
There's like, it's fun. No, it's not. It gives me anxiety. You can't have a good time without booze. Yes, you can. I had
Yes, you
loads of
can.
great times
Yep.
without booze before I started drinking or whatever. And so you can. There's a counter argument for all of them. And if you put it on a seesaw with the pros and the cons, i.e.,
Yes.
you start acting a bit more like a scout, you start to realize that actually you're being lied to,
Yes.
and this is what changes the unconscious mind. So deep down there, underneath the conscious, I was now telling myself on a daily basis that I'd been conned by the system, and I'd conned
Totally.
myself for years. And
Yep.
something happens in about 60 to 90 days in, you actually start to really believe that this stuff is true, deep, not
True.
just in your conscious mind, but inside you. And then when
Yes.
that happens, the door slams shut on drink,
Yes.
and you don't even think about it.
That's
And
amazing.
it becomes like, I don't jump out of third story windows. Why don't I do that? Because I know that would kill me. And I
Right.
actually think the same way about booze.
That's amazing.
I know that might sound crazy, but to someone who's drinking,
Yeah.
but I've convinced myself that it is poison, and I would never drink it again.
Well, and I think to get to that point, it's like you gotta face the reality of what it is. And,
Yeah,
I've listened to a lot of like Alcohol Lied to Me. I think that was one of the most brilliant books I've listened to about just the poisonous factor of alcohol and how we've
yeah.
never been taught that this stuff is truly bad, but we've seen a lot of evidence of it in our society, right? I think it kills like 800,000 people a year or something, and that might just be in the
Uh,
US, you know?
yeah, the figures are just dreadful. I mean, it's a bad drug. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And it takes people's lives away.
there's family abuse. There's
Yeah.
women getting beaten. There's kids like being abused. It's just dreadful what goes on when you really look at the facts.
Yeah.
Um, what the first chapter I wrote in the book was called the Alcohol Ometer, and
Okay.
what in the last days of drinking, I always used to sort of try to work out how much neat booze I was drinking. So
Mm.
I'd take like a bottle of wine, say, which is like 12.5% alcohol volume, and so you'd have to have 8 of those to have a whole bottle of neat alcohol.
Yes.
But I was drinking maybe 10 a week, so I was drinking maybe a liter of
Wow.
neat alcohol a week.
Yes.
And even 2 mouthfuls of neat alcohol will make you go blind if you drank it. I was drinking a liter a week, obviously diluted down with nice sugary substances and an advertising label on the side of it. But
Right.
basically, I was pouring poison inside me. And then I just, so the first chapter I wrote was a table how you can work out um, what you drink and how much neat alcohol you're drinking on
Yes.
a daily basis, a weekly basis, and during the year. So I think over the year I was drinking 52 liters of neat alcohol. I mean, that's
Wow.
a lot of neat alcohol.
A lot. And I think it's important to realize too when you stop, what your body does and how much more health is promoted, like how you can
Yeah,
reverse a lot of the things that you may start, the road you may start going down to. And looking at our society as a whole and the health of our society, it's like if we really want to thrive, if we really want to live our best lives, this substance is not going to get us there, you know?
no,
Yeah,
no, completely. And taking it out of my diet just changed everything. Um,
everything.
uh, oh God, I mean, I would say like I've lost about 4.5 stone, um, and I'm not on a diet.
Yep.
I just eat what I want to eat, and what I want to eat now is healthy stuff because I've just turned into
Yes.
someone who doesn't want.
'Cause that's who you are now, right?
Well, yeah, when I was drinking, the hangovers mean, I'll have some fried food, I'll have some bacon, fried eggs, bread, I'll have a
Yes.
burger, you just eat rubbish.
because
Well,
you're
I did
trying to
anyway.
feel better. You think that's going to make you feel better because you're just trying to put something in your body for energy. And it's like, that's not, it's on that lower frequency plane with the alcohol, is just putting junk inside of your body as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's all everything changes. So I sleep 7 hours a night,
that's great.
solid, just straight through. I've lost weight. I've got, I would say, much better relationships with the people I come into daily contact with. Well, anyone really.
Yeah.
I respect myself more. I respect others. I think the amount of time I have is just, it's the same time,
Crazy,
but I'm
right?
not sort of, when you drink, you just leave the now because you are going somewhere else.
It's so
You're
true.
taking a depressant basically to take you away from reality.
It's so true.
And so
Yeah.
there's this great Kung Fu Panda quote, the Jack Black movie. Um,
Yes.
so I love these sort of like metaphors to sort of like, it's the way I sort of learn stuff. And I was walking down this country lane, and there's this line in that movie about Jack Black, or Kung Fu Panda says, or Master Uge says that the past is history, the future is a mystery, and today it is a gift, and that's why we call it the present.
Mm,
And I just loved that, and it got me thinking that, because I was in the country lane, I could see the future, I could see the past, but really, your body is always in the now. It never goes to the future, and it never goes back to the past. But the thing that goes forwards or backwards is your mind.
yes,
And when you drink, you go somewhere else. You
you
start
do.
worrying about, oh, what did I say last night? Oh God, do I have to apologize to anybody? Or oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get this job done, or this project done at work. And you're just fretting over stuff that is the future or the past that doesn't exist.
Yes,
And so that's the time you lose.
yes,
And so I read somewhere that's about 50% of your time is lost to worrying about the past or the future. So if you stop
true.
drinking, you get a lot of that back,
Yes,
and that basically means you got more time. And it really has manifested itself for me in doing loads and loads of things that
I
I
know.
just wouldn't have done.
That's fantastic. And that's living your life to the fullest, right? And
Yeah,
why wait? Like, why do we wait so long to take our power back, to actually take control over the life we're living, you know?
yeah. I mean, I walked up England and Wales's highest mountain on Tuesday. I mean, I wouldn't have even got maybe like a tenth of the way up there like 2 years ago.
Now you did that
Um,
by yourself?
yeah, it was a bit crazy
Wow.
going by yourself, but I mean, I did it by myself. Yeah,
So
my,
I read a little bit of your post about that. Now, was it cold up there? Like, what was the visibility about? Was that fog?
Yeah, so I chose a bad day, and it was visibility was only about 25 meters. So apparently it is really beautiful views at the top, but there was something sort of spiritual about it, really, and
Mm,
it was just weird, or this elation feeling of getting to the top of this mountain and sort of being at the highest point in England and Wales, and there was no one higher than you in the whole of those countries.
wow.
And at the same time, even though it was foggy, I mean, it sort of it worked out really well for me because you couldn't, there wasn't this sort of summit that you could see like 7.5 kilometers away. You were just only taking the step in front of you, which is very similar to my sort of daily goals.
Yes.
So I wasn't like going, oh my God, there's 7.5 kilometers to go. I was just sort of taking the next 10 yards basically, or 10 meters.
I mean, that's life, right? And most
Yeah.
people, and I think that's why people have a hard time with lofty goals. Or I like the way you broke your goals down, because we're so unsure about the future, and we all want this idea of certainty and safety. And I always tell people, I'm like, there is no certainty and safety. Like, if we've
No.
seen anything in our world in the last couple of years, we don't really know what's going to happen. So by keeping yourself small and safe and the same,
Yeah.
drinking alcohol every day, not doing the things that are going to help you to advance spiritually and expand and grow, you actually have no guarantees. So
No.
why not take the big leaps of faith? Why not do the things that are calling to you? Because otherwise you're just waiting, right? What are you waiting for? Waiting to
Yeah.
die? I don't
You've
know.
got to have a growth mindset, and
Yes.
if you've got like a stagnant mindset, you don't go anywhere. You just stay watching Netflix and drinking Chablis or whatever it is, You know,
Yes.
you've got to have. Well, for me, I decided to stretch myself, and that really was, taking that one thing, changing that one thing by not drinking, just changed everything. It was
Changed
the one thing
everything.
that I almost like I'd given up. The old saying that I gave up everything for that one thing, but it was the
Yes.
one thing that I gave up to get everything back, and it was just phenomenal. It's like you get this superpower. It is very difficult to explain what happens, and it's like I've got like 2 or 3% extra, which I
Mm.
didn't have before,
Hmm.
and that makes the difference. That makes you a little bit quicker, a little bit like sharper, and you can, I'm so much more productive in my
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I can do things. I wouldn't say twice as fast, but definitely quicker.
Yes.
I just know I can. Like I just get things done in like you know, 20-30% quicker than I would have done before.
Absolutely. And because it puts you in a higher frequency, and I've noticed this over time for sure, you're not dipping constantly into
No.
this lower frequency where you're trying to manage your health and hangovers, and you're like, what people don't realize is like what your liver is actually doing and what your brain is actually doing
Oh God,
when
yeah,
you take on these substances, especially in abundance. When you're doing it on a daily basis and taking in so much, you don't realize that most of your life is about processing that substance and not really about advancing and taking in ideas and creativity and all of the amazing things that you could be experiencing if you just let that one thing go. I'm going to call my audience to do this. I mean, 30, 60, 90 days, 7 if that's all you can do, right? 5,
yeah,
7, break it down, but it
yeah,
absolutely is a super powerful commitment and decision. And the people that decide and really commit for a certain amount of time, I
yeah.
think those are the ones that are the most successful. People who just say, "Oh, I'm going to, not drink today." That's great, but one day isn't going to really advance you spiritually or
No.
mentally or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you basically, if your audience buys the book "Walking Back to Happiness" and follows the steps in there, each chapter
Yes.
is like got the steps of how to do it. It is really a good investment. I mean, I think I've saved. I looked at my. I've got this app. So when you stop, I stopped drinking. There's an app called Quit That or something like. I can't remember what it's called, but
Yep.
it works out how much money you've saved. And I
Crazy.
put in like I was spending about £15 a day, but it's probably a lot more than that when you add everything up, like the taxis and the fried food and all the rubbish that goes with it.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I'm on about £12,000 so far, which I don't know what that
That's
is in dollars, like $15,000.
You're just like what? How did that even happen? But it's so true because we don't really quantify that sort of. I mean, when you go out for a drink, it's $15 to $20 every time you do that.
Yeah,
And people don't, I don't think they really recognize that part of it as well. Like financially, how you're not only going to have more creative ideas that are going to bring in more finances, but you're not
yeah.
going to be putting out so much towards a substance that really is just holding you back.
Oh yeah, it's really really is a massive life changing experience. The whole thing, and I it's almost like I would say to myself, "Oh God, why didn't I do it earlier?" But it doesn't matter. It's never too
No,
late to
don't do
do
that.
it.
Yeah.
I don't regret any of my life that went before at all. I had a great time, but now I'm having an even better time,
Yes.
I'm just looking forward because one of the great things again about stopping boozing and actually looking more inward and understanding the power of meditation and mindfulness is I'm not going to worry about something that's gone. It's gone.
Yes.
What I'm gonna work on is today and what I can do today. And because a lot of the philosophy I used as I grew through this journey was from Stoicism, which is an ancient philosophy going back 2,500 years. And one of their famous or core lines is Memento Mori, which is basically remember that you die. And even though
Mm.
that might sound morbid, it's actually really, really positive because
Yes.
it's all about living today because you might not
Mhm.
be here tomorrow.
So true.
And don't put it off. Don't say, oh, I'll take that holiday when the kids have grown up, or I'll do
Mhm.
this when we'll sell the house and move when this happens. if you want to do something, do it right now. I mean, that's the important thing in life, I think, and that's what one of the things Stoicism has taught me.
It's a huge thing. That's a huge thing that I promote. So, um, 7 years ago, we moved across the country and we lived in one area our entire lives. And I had a dream that made no sense. I had never even visited California before. And making that leap of faith was the scariest thing we've ever done in our lives. But it
Wow.
absolutely was the best thing we ever did. And, I talk to people all the time about taking those leaps of faith and trusting that the energy has your back, that when you do these huge leaps of faith, when you work to advance yourself in life,
Yeah.
that there is so much support there that you can't even really fathom. Like you couldn't even fathom what giving up alcohol was really going to give you.
No.
And if we stay small and we keep letting our minds talk us out of the things that are really going to, because our mind is going to try, right? And meditation is a huge thing I promote in creating that space so that you can become aware of, what do I want to think about? What do I want to create? And not knowing you let go of a person. You
Yeah.
basically let go of
Yeah.
the identity of the person you only knew, the only person you've ever known. You
Yeah.
said, I'll see you later. I'm gonna try something different. And I
Yeah. And
think
I called him Old Nige.
I love it. And that's great because if
What
we
would
don't
Old
let go
Nige
of that
do?
old
I used to
person,
say that to myself. What would Old
yeah,
Nige do? What would New Nige do?
I love that. Everyone should do that.
It
Everyone should do
works
that.
though. It works.
It works and if you don't do that and you don't separate the old identity from the new identity, you're going to
Yeah.
continue. And we see people do this all the time in 1 Year No Beer. And I honor their journeys and I'm always supportive. And I do the same thing. So I don't judge people for it. But it's like, for me, every revisit is a process. It's like I'm processing what's happening in my life experience and how to expand and grow in the most optimal way. And when you're letting go of that old identity, it's like, oh, I don't do that anymore. And I
Yeah.
love that. That's the best way to get out of old crappy habits
Yeah.
or like not to regain the weight. We talk about a lot about, losing weight, gaining weight, being on a roller coaster ride. And it's like, I recently let all of that go and started to just be healthy. I'm a totally different person. Like
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about my food. I'm not like driving myself to detriment all the time. I'm like fueling my body and I'm having a cinnamon roll every once in a while and it's
Yeah.
great. It's like the best of both worlds and I'm fitter and healthier than I've ever been. So I love that, the old Nigel and the new Nigel. That's identity creation.
Yeah.
That's great. And true success. So tell me a little bit about what you do for people. If someone on the show and someone listening is interested in letting go of alcohol,
Yeah.
what sort of, because I think your book and what touched me about your book, I've read a lot of alcohol-free books and getting off alcohol. What really touched me about your book is there is a roadmap to
Yeah.
success in this book. And there's clarity in this book that I don't think I received from any other book where you actually have like a questionnaire, like, what kind of drinker are you?
Yeah. That's right.
And I love that because it actually made me feel like, all right, I have progressed. Like I've gone from being a daily drinker to being an occasional drinker and to being more in control of what I'm doing. So I think it's a great roadmap to success. But how do you help people? Now, habit changing coach is more than just drinking, and I love that. Tell
Yeah.
me what you do for people.
Yeah, sure. So I qualified to get in the last 6 months as a positive psychology coach. So
Awesome.
which is linked to the International Coaching Federation. And
Great.
I do one-to-one coaching over Zoom or face to face, where I
Great.
help people who want to change their relationship with alcohol or any habit that they'd like to change. But primarily, I focus on alcohol free, going alcohol free. But what you find is that once you do uh, get sober curious and you take alcohol out of your diet, out of your life, everything changes,
Mm,
and you start looking at your sleep, your diet, your exercise, your general fitness, your relationships. And so a habit change of taking the alcohol out of your life leads to lots of other changes. So
Many.
I provide
Yeah.
like a coaching service to clients who are interested in going on that journey, and I'll be supportive to them on that. So helping them flourish and helping them along their journey. So my website is called 9km by 9am. And I haven't
Okay.
really talked about that much, even though I've got the hat on with a brand on
Yes, I
it.
love it. Yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so what I did on day one of stopping drinking was I thought, oh, I feel good today. I'm going to go for a run. And being 17 and a half stone, that really wasn't a good idea. Um, and so my knees got a bit sore,
Uh-huh.
and I think I did. I was going to do a 1K run, and I think I walked about 800 meters of it, and I jogged 200 meters of it in but by day 30, I actually was able to run the whole kilometer, not in a fast time, but I was able to do it. But running wasn't for me because of my age and weight, and so I decided to walk. And I started doing these virtual walks where your phone monitors your steps, and you can count it towards, say, a walk from. I actually walked from Chicago to LA,
I love that.
which is 2,280 miles.
So
Um,
cool.
and it took me just over 9 months. But I learned a lot about the United States, actually, going through all the different states. But so what happened was I started doing these virtual walks, and I was racing my sister from Land's End, which is the bottom of England, to John O'Groats, which is the top of Scotland. And I worked out the way that I could win and get there before her was to walk. I'd have to put in 15,000 steps. And the only way I could do 15,000
Wow.
steps and still go to work was to do it early in the morning. And 15,000 steps worked out about 9 kilometers.
Okay.
And I was doing 9K before 9 a.m. And it sort of came out after about 3 times of doing this, like hitting nine kilometers by 9 o'clock, that, hey, hang on, this is a great brand name. And so I sort of decided to use that as my campaign.
Love it.
And so I literally started walking 9 kilometers by 9 o'clock every day. And I've done it every day for 15 months.
Wow.
And so basically my business is called 9km by 9am, and within it there's the books. So there's the first book, which is Walking Back to Happiness, which is obviously the link into the walking.
Yeah.
And at the end of each chapter there's a steps you can take, so it shows you what you can actually do to actually change your habits and transform your life. The second part of 9km by 9am is the coaching. So if you have read the book, or you want to go further and work with me directly, then you can be part of my coaching programs. And then the third area is the 9km challenge. You can go out, do a walk, take some photographs on your phone, and post them on this Facebook group. So I'm encouraging people to actually get out there and do some walks as well. And we've got about 100 odd members so far. I mean, I haven't massively promoted it, but it's one of the things that I'm
Yeah.
planning on doing over the next year or so.
I love it. I'm gonna join. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I go
please,
to the
please,
gym
yeah,
every day, but this is the thing about walking, because I go to the gym every day. So I go in a building and I work out with a bunch of people and I work out super hard. But literally every day I'm like, I should go for a walk today. And one of the hugest advantages to walking, especially outside, is being in nature.
yeah,
And what nature does is it resets your vibration. So it
yeah,
puts you in the greatest feeling of well-being that you can be in. So I'm going to join because I need to get myself to walk every day. Because, and the other
yeah,
part about walking that people, because you think, oh, I got to go work out. And that's what I do. I like weights and I do cardio and I do all that great stuff for my body. But walking is one of the best things for your body, your mind, your spirituality, to get yourself in motion and to really just create that strength
yeah.
through walking, where you're not beating on your body through running and all the different things that I do at the gym. So I am definitely going to join, and I'm going to invite my listeners to join, because I think and also accountability and competition, I think,
Yeah.
are some of the coolest ways that we can call ourselves to more, is like you competing against your sister. I thought that was brilliant. I actually thought, oh, my daughter and I should do this together because we're both super competitive.
Yeah, I mean,
Fantastic.
she didn't know I was doing that, but I'd sort of created this little plan myself to walk 15,000 steps by 9 o'clock. But yeah,
I don't know if that's fair.
but you're right. I've seen maybe 400 sunrises over the last 15 months. Or I've been there when the sun's just about to come up, even if it's behind the clouds. And there's a real spiritual feeling about being
Totally.
up at dawn when the sun comes up.
Yep.
And that's where the meditation, or you can go through at those points, it is so powerful. Like
Mm.
this morning, the Japanese have this thing called forest bathing, and they call it Shinrin Yoku, which means bathing in the forest. And all it basically means is you just go for a walk in nature and you take in the smells, the sights, the sounds, the touch of what's around you. And you don't have to go into the Amazon to do this. You can go to a park. You can
Hmm.
just sit there and you listen to the birds. You touch the bench. You touch the trees, and it might sound a bit weird, but it's not. It's actually unbelievably powerful for your mind, and it makes you
Yes,
feel great. I mean,
it
I would not
does.
swap that for anything. And on these walks, I mean, again, the good thing about sort of going early is you can do this early. I mean, it's sort of there's no one in these on these
Right.
country lanes or these walks at like 5:30, 6 a.m. in the mornings. Um,
Right.
but it's good. It's good. It's really really powerful. Walking, I wouldn't is fantastic.
Well, and I always share about there's something about the sunrise and the sunset. Like
Yeah,
every place that we've ever visited, it's like a phenomena. People always gather for the sunset.
yeah,
And the sunrise, it's the same thing. When we're actually driving home from the gym, we always see the sunrise. And I'm like, there's something about that knowing that every single day this happens. And I love the forest bathing because you're literally present. And
yeah,
and that's life. And people, I think a lot of people are missing out on life because they're on social media, they're on their computers, and the electronics actually are defying our well-being. They're actually
yeah,
creating a dissonance between our vibration and the earth's vibration. So when
yeah,
you put yourself back on land, back on the earth, and you immerse yourself in that, it is incredibly powerful and
yeah.
so about living your best life.
Oh, it is completely. I wouldn't swap it for anything. It is completely life changing. And so even though I'm sort of in the woods meditating, I do a daily video as well. So I do bring the demon technology with me to
Yes.
like film this so I can share it. So I do put they're like 60-second, 90-second videos of like today's is on forest bathing and it's on Instagram and Facebook. So my handle on that is at 9 km by 9 a.m.
Okay. Great.
If you put at 9 km by 9 a.m. into any social media, I'll
You'll
probably
pop
come
up.
up. Yeah.
Okay, great. How inspired though? How inspired to do a little video when you're in that element, when you're in that feeling and in that place. It's like a channeled situation.
Yeah, yeah, and it's sort of, and what I do is I'd sort of share sort of snippets from the book as well, and all the different sort of learnings I've gone through, and I've read so much of Asian and Eastern philosophy as well as Western philosophy and American philosophy, and it's amazing how some of these philosophies they've just sort of vanished from our
Mm.
daily lives. We just start looking at screens all day, and whereas was just something simple as watching a sunrise, or listening to the birds, or doing sound meditation where you just sort of just try to listen to all the things that are going on around you. It's wonderful experience just to sort of realize that there are so many sounds if you just open your ears.
It's true.
There's loads and loads of stuff going on, and then that gets you focused, and you can actually just get into spacing into your mind, so you're making your mind clearer.
I totally agree. And even opening your focus to what's going on around you, because I think so you see people all the time, I call it business mode, where you can
Yeah,
tell that people are unavailable. They're just in their minds, they're in their monkey
yeah,
mind. I was actually talking to my husband this morning because he pulls me out of my monkey mind. I've been noticing lately. And he kind of brings me back into my soul, like back into love, back into like, oh, my
yeah,
peace. And I thought nature is also a wonderful way. Like if you just go outside and look at the sky, and just notice what's going on. I always look for hawks. I always look for animals. I'm always
Yeah.
like just opening my focus when I go outside, because otherwise we're just like, we're steaming through, we're running through life, we're on this
Yeah.
train and we're not really enjoying everything
No.
that's around us that's available.
Yeah, there's something like I read some statistic that we each of us has something like 58,000 thoughts
Yes.
a day or something like, or
Yeah.
maybe even an hour, but
Yeah.
it's something crazy. And 80% of them are the same thoughts over and over
Yes.
and over and over again. So it's very difficult to sort of, if you're not trying to find the space between those thoughts, to try to actually get in and to, empty your mind of all this rubbish and that's in there. And that's what really meditation allows you to do. It allows you to get to a state of mindfulness. And
Yes.
I think the more you do it, it could be sort of having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, just holding the warm cup in your hand and focusing on what you're actually doing in this now moment. The tea is warm, that how it tastes, what it's like when you swallow it. You're just thinking about what you're doing in the now, and you're not worrying about the past or thinking about the future. And that's mindfulness. That's meditation. And if
Absolutely.
you start doing it regularly, if you start making those steps in the forest and thoughts in the mind to actually create that path, your reaction time becomes a lot sort of more thoughtful. So you
Thoughtful.
so you don't sort of, if someone cuts in front of you in a car on the motorway, you don't go beep the horn really quick and go, oh, where the hell's he going? You're more
So
like
true.
sort of like, oh, he must be in a rush. There must be something wrong in his life, or
So
something.
true.
Something like you're calmer basically.
It's so
And
true. And road rage is so real. And I've literally like I've totally healed that within myself, where you're just like, okay, go ahead. It's like
yeah, but you know
release
how
all this
far you've
energy.
come if you can get in a
Yes.
car
Yes.
and not feel road rage.
It's mastery.
Yeah,
It's freaking
it's almost like,
mastery.
you can leave the temple now because
So true. I just want to touch on one more thing that you talked about, because it made me think of alcohol. So I recently just went back home to my home state and saw a lot of family members that I haven't seen in a long time. And that's a trigger. Family's a
yeah,
trigger to drink. They're all big drinkers, they're all daily drinkers. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this differently. So I drank non alcoholic wine all day.
yeah,
And what I realized was I didn't have the anxiety that I normally have being
yeah,
with people and just different relationships and things like that. Old energy, right? Old energies that bring me back to
yeah,
like who I used to be. And I was really, truly present with every person, no matter what they were. There's a lot of drama there. They're all going through a lot of things. And I
yeah,
thought, wow, what a gift to be
yeah,
able to just share my light instead of sharing my
yeah,
buzz. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It was a totally different experience. It was the first time I ever woke up from a family party without a hangover.
And you're there for them, and that's really,
Yes.
really important. You're sort of giving back, aren't you? It's sort of like, it's a
Yeah,
great thing to do.
completely. And
And
I don't know if they realized it, but I did. So I benefited from it. Doesn't matter if anybody else did, but that's the gift we get for being truly present and having this meditative like this. My relationship with meditation is it's a non-negotiable, I call it. It's something that I do every single day,
yeah,
just about without fail, because it's that bliss, right? It's that clearing of the mind. It's for me, it's like that connection to my higher self,
yeah,
that there is no worries. There is no future. There is no past. It's just like right here, right now. And
yeah.
I feel like your nature walks. I'm going to do it. You're inspiring me. I'm
There's
going to do it.
a great Zen master saying which says that everyone should meditate for at least 20 minutes every day, and if they
Yes.
haven't got the time, they should do an hour.
Yes. I've heard that and I love it. And I've also heard saying you don't have time to meditate is like saying you don't have time to look for your keys before you leave for work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So we want to build that strong foundation. Nigel, this was such a pleasure. There's so much wisdom in this show, and I knew that you were going to bring it. I knew that you and I were on the same plane and resonate so much. So who knows, maybe we'll do this again. It was
Oh, I'd
really
love
fun.
to. Yeah, I'd love to. And
Yeah.
thanks very much for having me on. It's been
I
brilliant.
appreciate your time. And I'm gonna connect with you and get all this information on the show notes. So if you want to connect with Nigel on Instagram or Facebook or through his website, we can do that, because I'm all about people up leveling and getting to the next level. And if alcohol is your issue, let's get it out of there, you know?
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nigel. All
Thank
right,
you.
that's it for us. Peace out, everyone. I love you all.